To create a representation for the GA aircraft, we will need to establish parameters and criteria for the representation to follow. Parameter files are used to specify our batch mesh settings, and criteria files are used to determine the element quality. We will go to the mesh ribbon up top, and we can find the parameter and criteria icons here. The icon on the left opens the parameter editor, so we will begin by clicking this and making sure that our target element size is set to 15. By clicking the Save As icon, we can save this parameter file that will be used when we create our representation. We can find the location we are going to save this to, and we will title it DFEM. We will then move to the icon on the right-hand side, which will open up the criteria editor. Here you can determine what criteria the batch mesher will follow. We will make sure that our target element size is set to 15, and we will click on Save As to save this criteria file. Likewise, we will call this one DFEM. Now we are ready to add our representation into the library. We will do this by going to Representations, Settings, and then User Representations. We will click the plus icon to make a new representation, and then we can change the name here to DFEM, and then we can load our parameter file, and then click the folder here to open the file. Likewise, we can do this for the criteria file in the window below. Any edits to the parameter or criteria files can be made at this point by clicking the edit icon to the right of the folder. If we click the edit icon for the parameter file, the parameter editor window appears, where we can change the values we inputted. We can also click the editor button next to the criteria window, where we can edit the qualities of the mesh. We can switch between the parameter and criteria editors by toggling through this menu to the left. As we click Apply, we can see that the name up top has updated. We can then click OK, and now our representation has been created in the library. Following this, we can use this representation to batch mesh the wing assembly of the aircraft. So now we will right-click on the wing assembly, go to Representations, then Create. If we extend the window, we can see that the representation that we have just created is listed at the bottom of the menu. To load this, we will check this box, and we will make sure that the Save to Library box is also checked. This box will automatically save our batch mesh representation into the library. If we don't check this box, it will only save our batch mesh into this specific HyperWorks session that we're working in, and it can't be viewed or used in other sessions. Now let's click OK. This automatically brings up the batch meshing window. Here we can see that every part that is contained in the wing assembly, as well as the status of each part, is in the batch mesher. The batch mesher will mesh all of the parts, and then when it is complete, it will automatically close. This prompt will appear asking if we want to load our representation for all of the parts in the graphics window. We will go ahead and select Yes. And then we can see that the representation has been loaded on the wing. If we zoom in, we can see that all of the elements are displayed. If we open up the library viewer once again, we can see that each part has a representation attached to it, along with a major revision number and an associated author. With that, we can press OK and exit out of the library viewer. Now, let's say that instead of creating a representation, we are wanting to load a pre-existing representation. This can be done in a similar way. If we zoom into the wing once again, we can see that the DFEM representation that we have created is still loaded. Let's say that I have created an alternate representation with a coarser mesh. And now I'm wanting to load this new mesh instead of our previous DFEM representation. This can be done by right-clicking on the part we are wanting to change, going to Representation, Load, and From Library. We then can select our alternate representation and click OK. In the graphics window, we can now see that the alternate representation has now been loaded in place of the original DFEM representation. And we can once again open the library viewer and see that there is now two representations for each part, both with the major revision A marked. And we can go to a different part and see that the same follows. We can now press OK and exit out of the library viewer.